Welcome.
Welcome indeed. This is so glad to be with each of you tonight, and we have some really wonderful things to share with you.
We do. We are so excited because we're in the middle of transition, as you well know. And our transition that we're going to be talking about has a lot to do with this specific time about what it means to be living with someone, sharing space under the same roof, or as you put it, taking up oxygen from people in the same space.
When you live with somebody, you give up a lot, including the oxygen.
Yes, and this was our 55th podcast episode, and so we're going to dive a little deeper, and we're just so glad you are joining us for this Facebook Live, because we really want to hear from you and get your comments and find out how you are dealing with transition, especially as it relates to living with someone, whether you're considering moving in with someone, you've been living with someone for a while, or maybe you're thinking about moving out from someone. So it's all about that interaction that you have.
Right. And it doesn't all have to be negative. We'd love to hear the things that have worked well, the things that you have found how you actually navigated through that change and transition of living with somebody, because that's helpful to our listeners.
It really is. So if you're watching right now and you think someone else might enjoy this, you can tag them and say, hey, why don't you watch? We're only on for a few minutes here, but we're just going to be sharing a few little nuggets that we have gleaned from our years of making perfect decisions. Like every time.
Really?
No.
I don't know about you. That's not me.
Well, anybody who knows me knows that's not it either. But anyway, we would love for you to share this, and because we especially want to hear what you have to say. And we thank so many of you who are already here and watching and hanging out with us. So thank you so much for that.
Yes.
So if there's something you want to add to the conversation, please, you know what to do. Text us and let us know. And one of the things we would really like to find out from you, in a positive vein, the question that we'd like to ask you is, what do you like most about living with someone? I mean, what do you enjoy most? Because I think sometimes when we're worried about a transition of moving in with somebody, we think of all the negative things. Right. But there's a reason we either have a roommate, or we're living with somebody, or we get married. And that's because we want to share space with somebody under the same roof.
Yes, and it's about sharing, I think, your experiences, your life, your joys, your sorrows, your ups, your downs. It's the companionship, and it's the joy of having someone else to share your life with. That's right. And that's why we choose it.
Yes, it really is. That is exactly why we choose it. So we, in our 55th podcast, that's on More to Life with FaithAndLois.com, just in case you don't know our website, or any of the platforms that you can listen to us on, we really kind of got into what it is like to have that transition of moving in with somebody and hanging out. And we offer a couple of suggestions and ideas on how things can work well and how they don't sometimes. But one of the first things we said is, do it for the right reasons. Have you actually talked to the person with whom you are moving in with about what that's going to look like? Because surprisingly, many of us don't take that step.
Exactly. And this is so important, because you're two different people coming together to share a space, and you're going to do things differently. It's a given, because you came from two different backgrounds. No two families do things alike. I've never seen that happen.
I know.
So you may have somebody that's coming from a home that does everything immaculate, and another person comes from a home where it wasn't kept so immaculate. So now you're blending this. You need to talk about it. Yeah. You need to talk about the details, like, how do you like your food? How do you like to clean up? How do you do certain things within the home? How do you care for it?
Yeah.
Because if you don't talk about it, that's where the collision course happens. And you can avoid some of that.
That's right. And what your expectations are, because sometimes people come in and they're like, oh, I just want to do this for a little while.
Right.
And I'm not really thinking about it. And the other person's saying, oh, I'm invested in this for a very long time.
Right.
So, I mean, having that kind of conversation, it's difficult. And Faith, I know you say, well, people are in love. So they just kind of jump in and say, this is what we're going to do. And that's awesome. That's really awesome. And there are things to talk about, which sometimes don't happen, and that's a bit frustrating for the person who actually is anticipating or wants a lot of commitment.
Yes, and it is true that love covers a multitude of sins, but not necessarily in the house.
Wait a second.
And so that's why communication is vital. to running a smoother, more peaceful environment for both of you to live in.
It really is. So, I mean, look at a few of those things, because you really would be surprised at how many people decide to just move in and not really talk about what this is going to mean. And at the end of the day, then both of you end up frustrated, by the way. It doesn't turn out that one of you is happy and the other is not. You just basically get frustrated. You know, we have a number of you that are watching right now, and we want to thank you, Danielle, so much for being with us. And you write in, I had lots of roommates before I got married, and my husband is the only person I don't get tired of.
Oh, well, that's nice.
That's really sweet. Jeff, are you listening? No, but that's actually really cool, because that's one of the issues, right? That people get tired. We do, right?
Because the demand can really be there, and it wears you out, and you're constantly feeling like you have to conform or perform for it to work well. And the drama that can come with roommates.
Yes.
We oftentimes don't recognize that there can be drama in having a roommate. So you get tired of that pretty quickly.
That's right. That's right. My dear husband decided to write in too. Thanks, Art. And he said that he was looking for someone that can cook. So that works, because I really don't like his cooking and he likes mine. So there you go. You kind of divide it up, right? So that actually works out. In fact, that goes into the next question that we might have. Do you establish any ground rules? Like, what is it going to look like? You know, is it like The Odd Couple, where things, you know, nobody does the right things and at the right time? Or do you have another way to do it? And Faith, I think you have a great strategy for how to deal with ground rules kind of in a living situation.
The best thing to do that I found is to find out what the other person really likes to do. So when it comes to cleaning, for instance, you ask the people that are in the household, hey, what do you enjoy doing that is not just like, oh, I hate doing that job? And one of the things I mentioned is, I don't mind at all loading the dishwasher, but I don't necessarily like it. And my husband was wonderful. He said, I like it. And I go, great, that's now your job. I'll load it, you unload it. It works perfectly. But we found the things together that I like doing, he likes doing. He's a gardener, I am not. And so we split up what we do, and it works. And so if you will just have that conversation with the people in the household, like, what do you like to do? It's going to go a lot smoother.
It really is. And like, who's paying what bill?
Yes.
I mean, something that simple, especially if you have a roommate situation, or if you have kids who are leaving the home and they're going into a roommate situation. If you don't establish this, after a few bills get not paid, you know, and the parents get the call, hello, this hasn't been done. Those are the kinds of simple things you can do to make things so much smoother. You know, I'm one of these people that really hates talking about financial stuff. I'm not the business element in any relationship. Don't take advantage of me, please. But I mean, it's just very, it's not something I enjoy doing. And I've learned that that is foolish not to, you know, step into and say that that's okay. So really consider those kinds of things, because then nobody gets upset. You're handling this, I'm handling this, and then we're all on much better page.
Right. And when you're married to someone, those are the things you work out. Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to do the accounting and that type of thing? And sometimes it means transitioning that over to the other person, but always share it.
Yes.
And if it's roommates, have it written down. Be sure you write it down, because then there's no misunderstanding. And that's where things get tense.
Yeah. It really does. It really does. So we are in episode 55, by the way, which was our podcast, and it was the impact of living with someone and how that affects you. And we'd like to ask you, what has been the hardest thing about living with someone, if you would like to share an answer about that, because some people have harder issues that are very challenging about what it's like to live with somebody. So, and yes, see, we are, you know, working all sorts of things here. So anyway, but for some people, it's very, very challenging to live with somebody. And what's the hardest thing that you faced as either with a roommate or with somebody that you're under the same roof with?
Well, for me, it was just adapting to the differences. And at first, because we tried to talk about it, but it didn't always work because the differences were kind of extreme. But when we began to really have a good conversation, we were able to see that the differences were not good or bad. They were different. And so we tend to judge when it's not our way. And the reality is when you come together, now you are not doing his way or your way or their way. You are doing it our way.
Yeah.
And you have to find the our way in when you actually are living with someone.
Yeah, and that can be challenging.
Yes.
And so Art has actually written in, so one of the things that's hard for him is moody people.
Oh.
So there are people that walk around, you can have a roommate, you could have any kind of situation where people really carry a lot of baggage with them at all times. And inside a house, I know he's not referring to me, but other people have been moody, I think, in the household. No. But I mean, that is something to really think about because, when you've been working all day and you're gone and then you come back and you come into a situation that is not very easy, living under one roof can be very challenging.
It can be. It definitely can be. And so that's the atmosphere thing we've talked about before, that the transition of what needs to happen to actually transition the atmosphere of your home. And that's finding out what works for each of you.
Yeah. One of the things that's very helpful is to decide to blend your tastes. Because, if you come into somebody's house, let's say you move in where somebody else already lives, or somebody comes to where you are, there are things already not only on the wall, but maybe your walls are painted a certain color, or there are carpets, or there are mementos that are really, really special. How do you blend your things so that you are all or both, depending on how many of you there are, represented?
Yes.
That's really important.
And that it's so important because you need to have your space fit for everyone that's in the home. And so oftentimes it will be your bedroom that is unique to you. And that's where you can decorate it however you want to if you have your own private bedroom. And the other thing is to begin to blend in where does all of the different things that everybody brings into the home, where does it fit? Yeah. And how can it blend? You said a beautiful thing about the colors, about how you adapted to Art's color.
Yes, I'm one of these people that for years you would walk and every single room had a different color. I know, made people crazy, and that's just how I've always lived. And when I met Art, his favorite color is blue. Look what I'm wearing. But anyway, so his favorite color was blue, and blue was something I didn't have very much of. Well, I started experimenting with a blue-gray, and if you walk upstairs into our living room, all shades of gray and blue. And it's funny that I thought, let me give this a try. Now it's become a part of me. I love how it goes. And he feels like his tastes have been totally honored. Right. So we can't always do that. And I know you've mentioned, and sometimes we educate other people that we're with about what is better. Like for me with the cooking, it's better that I do that just because. But it also is something that you can maybe grow to like, which is really cool.
I know. So it's balance. It's all about balance, about blending and bringing in, and then also experimenting, like maybe I would like something different. There you go.
Yes. So we would love to hear from you if you would like to join the conversation, and thank you for those of you who are watching right now. What has been the hardest for you when you have chosen to live with somebody as a roommate or living with somebody in a relationship that you're hoping is going to go somewhere? And someone actually said, being on the same page about when the other will be home.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that clock thing always gets off, right?
Yes.
And so dinner on the table and they don't show up and it's cold, that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
I think the key thing is communication again. If you are not communicating, if you're not helping that person that's at home waiting know what is going on, then the tensions are going to rise. Then to also take into consideration if you're the one that is out and needing to come home, to be considerate and to say, I do have a deadline.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, I guarantee you that your appointment book for the day, you've met those appointments. And then oftentimes it's the one at home we delay.
Right. Well, we feel safe, we feel comfortable, and they're not going to mind, and all those kinds of things.
They mind.
And they do. Yeah,
they
do. So that is a fabulous thing to think about.
Yeah.
One of the other ways to make living together palatable for people who make that choice, because there are people who make a decision, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm really okay on my own. But if you are going to be living under the same roof with somebody, finding a way to create your own space. How can you be in a space, whether it's small or large, where you are not always underneath the foot or arm or arm wherever you are, that you have your own space, that you can actually make a phone conversation where somebody else can't hear you. You can do things in quiet, not secret, but being able to have space.
You have to have that space where you can journal, where you can meditate, where you can pray, where you can reflect, where you can just have some breathing space. And so, yes, create that. And more she sheds, I'm going to say that carefully, are being built, as well as man caves, okay? Because there's been that's easier to say.
I was wondering where you're going with that. Yes,
man caves, but we're finding we need that.
Yeah.
And that's okay to have it. So if you can't afford that, which most of us can't, at least find a corner in the living room, a corner in the dining room, a corner in your bedroom that becomes yours.
And that's really important, because as we each thrive in our own space, we bring more into our relationship. No matter if it's a roommate or if it's somebody that you're committed to, being able to do that and to honor that space that the other person needs and craves for themselves as well. Because as much as we want, and we talked about this in the podcast, to be united in a front, we also need to stay individuals.
Yes.
Because it's great when two strong people are with each other rather than trying to be this weird, blend of two people. So when I say blend tastes, not blend people.
Right. Well, and oftentimes in the transition of living with someone, we want them to conform to our image.
Yeah, so much easier.
No, it's not. It actually creates the atomic bomb of emotion. So no, we don't want that. What you want to do is be an individual here and an individual here, and you have a relationship.
Yeah.
And that is about talking with each other and sharing and talking through things that's actually going to help living together go so much better.
It really does. So our final question for you is, how do you keep yourself functioning in the midst of shared space? I mean, how do you do it? How do you find a place to be that allows you to be who you are and to thrive in that space? And then finding things to share together.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, the whole reason you're hanging out with somebody and wanting them under the same roof, right, is that not only do we want to be independent, but we actually want to enjoy the company of this person or these people that we've chosen to share space with.
So where's your space?
My space is in the front room upstairs. I have an office space that is that looks out, and it gives me a privacy. And when I sit at my desk behind the computer, it's really known that I'm in there to work. And if I'm to be engaged with, there's almost like you kind of check in. And I don't have a door on that, but it's the front office space. And so, my husband has an office upstairs where he can close the door. If my boys are around, I know where they can go so that they can have their space. So I really try to keep that careful, and now nobody just walks right in and just does something, because they know that if I'm back there, I must be working.
That's really good.
So
that's really good.
yeah.
And you found it.
I found it.
You found it.
Yes.
And that's the key thing, is
Yeah.
find that space for yourself and then enjoy it.
Yeah. And you may have Faith, you're mentioning this, a really tiny place that you're in. So it's not that you have to have a whole, maybe it's just one chair.
Right.
Maybe it's being able to, to look out to a space and, being able to just kind of engage with yourself and letting the other person know that this is where you are.
And so if it is really, really small, then find your favorite place in a park. And I've encouraged people that are, there's too much going on. It's like, where's your nearest park? And go find that park bench that becomes yours and make it yours.
That's really awesome. So we know that the impact of living with somebody is a transition that can go in many directions. And we're hoping that if you're able to maybe take a few of these suggestions that possibly what you have now, maybe you've had it for years, will be even better.
Yes.
And if you're considering jumping and diving in, have that conversation and be ready to know what the other person wants, so that you're both looking for the same thing.
Absolutely. We would really, really like for you to check out our podcast.
Yes.
Because we are talking this entire year about transition. And each week we're taking a different topic, and they're exciting. And I'm sure one of these is going to come right in and hit right where it needs to.
Yes.
And so join us every single week, if you possibly can, about transitions.
And we have plenty on there. You can go to our website. You can go to iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or Spreaker. I mean, really, seriously, ask Alexa. We're there. And listen. And just this week, we started transcribing our podcasts. I know.
Yes.
And so you can read them if you would like to. They're much more fun to listen to. But if you would
They
like to
are.
see every single word, it's there. It's there as well. And we'd love for you to connect with us. There are
Yes.
plenty of ways to connect with us. So we are so glad you're here. And share this if you'd like with anybody. And next week, we're going to make it a little shift. We're going to be
Yes.
here on Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday at 6
Because
o'clock.
she has a conflict.
That's right. And she is accommodating.
Yes. See, we work together.
So we'll see. So next week we're going to shake it up a little bit on Wednesday, but we want to thank you and we want to remind you that no matter where you are,
Yes,
there's more to life.
there is.
And now I'm going to reach forward and turn this off. Bye.